Welcome to the Sanity Project podcast, the place for internet technology professionals whose work-life balance plan has imploded. We are here to provide solutions that will help the IT pro live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Here's your host, Joanne Victoria.
Hi, this is Joanne Victoria with another podcast from the Sanity Project podcast. The Sanity Project podcast is a platform for experts in the self-development community to share their wisdom, expertise, and solutions that will help the IT pro live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Guests talk on many subjects, including money, health, wellness, spirituality, stress, leadership, communication, and mindfulness. Our guest today is Divya Parekh. Divya Parekh is a 3-time #1 international best-selling author, keynote speaker, business relationship and book writing coach who has had great success with entrepreneurs, coaches, aspiring authors, and speakers. Divya's books and strategies have been endorsed by the likes of Brian Tracy, Marshall Goldsmith, Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank, James Malinchak, ABC's Secret Millionaire, Winn, 2-time Olympian, and many more. Whether Divya is speaking, advising corporate clients, coaching business owners, or helping authors to write their books and get published, she has a message that is essential to bringing success to anyone. That message has 5 tenets. 1, servant leadership. 2, collaboration, not competition. 3, build relationships that matter. 4, mindfulness works everywhere. And 5, knight yourself. That's knight with a K, K-N-I-G-H-T. Welcome to the show, Divya Parekh.
Thank you, Joanne, for having me. It's a privilege to be on your show.
I appreciate that. I think our audience is going to be privileged as well to hear the things that you have to say. After all, you've had a great deal of experience and you certainly understand the IT world and leadership as well, and how the IT professional is living in a world of constant change. Their world changes all the time, and the only people they really have to talk to are their coworkers. So how can they manage change despite what everybody coming after them? We have the client coming after them. We have their managers coming after them. Everybody is pecking at their head to get results. How can the IT pro handle that?
Great question. So one of the things that I always share with my clients, and that while I used to be in the corporate world. And when I used to be in corporate world, every year, what would happen is, we would get this announcement, so to speak. I mean, not a typical announcement. The reason I'm saying it as an announcement is it's the expectation to do more with less. Automation.
Always. Yeah, always.
Yep. And automation is stepping in so fast that for IT professionals, not only they have to be able to keep the systems running for their bosses, their managers, but for all the users who may not even have any clues about IT. All they see is the user end and see that, okay, this is what's happening. They're used to a previous version of software. Now they're taking a look at the new version of software, which of course is going to have its kinks. And there's this IT professional in the back who's trying to resolve everything. And then they have these bombarding emails. Oh, this is not working. This feature is not working. This is so different. Why did we have to upgrade it? Why do we have to change the software? So that is that one end. And then at the other end, what happens is sometimes bosses may not be from an area that is very relevant to IT. They may have great leadership skills. They may be great leaders. But because they do not have leadership in information technology where they've dealt with it hands-on, sometimes you can have those kind of bosses and they will tell you, okay, this is what the vendor told me, that upgrade should take only 20 to 30 hours and we should be done. And here are so many upgrades that we need to do. There's regular maintenance, and then you have to keep up with your positions, your training, and you're asked to do more with less. Then on the other side, what happens is you are used to staying next to your computer, interacting with computer, interacting with the small group that you are working in, the IT support group or the IT developers, IT testers, whatever your group is. And when you're not used to interacting with other people, you hesitate. And then sometimes when you are in a position, or when you are not in a position to talk about the difficult things that need to be talked about, is about having those difficult conversations, you don't speak up. And if you don't speak up, nobody else is going to know what you're going through, what are the difficulties, what are the challenges that need to be overcome. And then what happens is a lot of IT professionals are at a loss. So the first thing to do is taking a gauge of what you are, taking a gauge of where you are, then again sitting down and evaluating where you want to go. So once you know where you are at, for example, are you happy with your job? Are you happy with your skill sets? Are you happy with your team? Are you happy with your career? So taking stock of where you are. And now you sit down, and I'm going to share a story of one of my clients who used to be a professional. He was in a pretty large firm at a very high position, really very well paid, high six-figure salaries. But what was happening was he just did not want to lead millennials. He did not want to be in contact with the baby boomers and X generation, because now there are 4 generations in workforce and the communication style is different. So he was seeking for something.
It's challenging.
Yes. So he was seeking for something but couldn't figure it out. So that's where we sat down. We figured where he exactly was. And what was it? Then the next step is to find out, what are your pain points? What are things that give you joy? So I usually ask, the first step is evaluating where you are. The second step is find what you like, find what you don't like. And the third and the fourth column is what works well for you, what does not work for you. And that's what's going to do for you, is it's going to parse out your situation into what is it that's you're not liking. And it could be, I do not like supporting users. I would like to be in development. What's working for me? My relationship with my coworkers is working well. Or my relationship with my boss is not working well. So talking with this gentleman, Joe, I'm changing his name for the confidentiality reason. So Joe figured he was not thrilled with interacting. It just took too much out of him. And then we decided that, okay, how do you like the company? He liked the company. He liked the boss. He liked his coworkers. So then we said, okay, the next step was to figure out where do you want to go? And he said that I want a nice job where I'm able to help others, but I can pace myself. Where other people are not dictating my pace. Where other people are not determining how many hours I have to work per day. I want that flexibility. So then after determining where he wanted to go, the next step is to create an action plan. And once you have created an action plan, you put it into action. So I'll give an example. Was with this gentleman, Joe, we decided that the first step was to sit and talk with his boss. He went and talked with his boss, having a difficult conversation. I've been with the company for 20 years, and this is where I'm at. And his boss said that, sorry, Joe, we'll not be able to accommodate you. And if you feel like it, please look for a job somewhere else. This is what the opening is, and we have limited resources, we have limited opportunities. I would love to give you a different opportunity, but a lot of people are asking for it. So now, rather than being in a position where he's being frustrated day after day and then, getting up on a Monday morning and thinking, oh my God, I have to go back to work Tuesday morning, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it becomes a nightmare. So don't get to that position. Evaluate where you are every month. Have one-on-one meetings planned out with your boss. Find out where your organization is going. Find out how you can align your values and how you can align your goals towards your boss's goals and your department goals and your company goals. And it's about like finding where are the areas that you lack in and then building it up. It's about the continuous learning. And I know I'm throwing out there a lot, but the 4 simple steps I would say is where you are at, where do you want to go, create an action plan based on what's working well, what's not working well, and then take action.
Well, one of the things, I don't know for sure, but it has been said that in the next 3 years, over 70% of the workplace will be filled with millennials because the baby boomers are getting old and they're not able to do the work that the millennials do, and they can get millennials cheap, very cheap, because people with 20 years experience or more, such as Joe had, they cost money. As you said, he was making a good salary, and they can replace him with somebody who's, even if they went to college, is still willing to accept less money and do more, although for a shorter period of time, because millennials don't like to hang out where it's not fun and happy for them either.
And there are 2 approaches that we can look at for the millennials. In one way, in today's world, as we have been talking about the changes, some of my clients just love to work as consultants, where
Right.
they're able to drive their time, schedule, boss, but at the same time, you do not have that security of a job. But then, of course, now there is no security, right? Anybody can get laid off anytime, depending on the economy or depending on if the stock market is not doing good or depending on what are the shares for that company are doing.
Sure.
So then, talking about millennials, you brought up a really good point. The key is to have mindfulness present in your life. And I have come up with something very new. I'll just be able to share it very shortly because I want to be respectful of your time, Joanne. Is something called Now Power. That is a mix of leadership, emotional intelligence, and mindfulness. So what NOW stands for is no. Of now is no excuses, no to fear, no to procrastination, no to naysayers, no to negativity. I help people and I support them to how to say yes to a lot of different things. But in this case, what I'm saying is say no to the right things. And when you say no to the right things and you own your story, which is walk the talk, then the power within you will come out. So now let's talk about no excuses and how does mindfulness play into it. If you're mindful and you're right there in the moment, you're listening to the tone, you're listening to the inflection in the voice, you're listening to the body language, you're listening to the person in front of you. You are listening to the beat of the team, what's going on in the meeting. You're listening to your colleagues day in and day out. You're listening to your boss. You're listening to your organization, what's happening in the organization, where the organization is going. Rather than just, okay, this is my project, I'm going to do my project and I'm done. No, being mindful means that having that focus without judgment around people around yourself, and around the environment. And then you're focused on any place where you're at. So, for example, Joanne, currently my goal is to give my 200% to your listeners, give my 200% to you. So if I'm mindfully present, then I can find out what are the problems and be able to handle the problems ahead of time, avert the crisis, be able to manage the risks of the changes because the changes happen so fast. You may even be able to predict the changes. So one of the great examples of mindfulness is being aware of the industry trends. So you brought up a great trend that millennials leave if they are not appreciated. Millennials.
Oh, yeah. They don't have. Excuse me for interrupting, but they just do not have. This is not a judgment. This is a fact. They do not have the loyalty that people had years ago of coming. I'm talking a long time ago, actually. The 30-year retirement, then you get your gold watch. That drama has been long gone. So if they don't like a place, they will leave. And I think that to some extent, the business and the team, and goes from the top down, has some sort of chaos that they have to deal with when these things occur. And on the other side, I think it's great that they know what they want and they're willing to leave and walk away and go look for it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a gift. But it is not a gift that people such as Joe with over 20 years and a high salary can afford to do mentally as well as financially and maybe soulfully as well, because not everybody can be an entrepreneur. Not everybody can be a consultant. People are used to structure. I think this is the huge issue. Structure works for some people. I have a friend/client who was working for a very large entertainment company for over 20 years. And then they decided to flatten their silo, shall we say, so that they didn't need her. They replaced her with 3 people because she was making that much money. And she went out on her own to create a consulting business and use all of her computer skills, her communication skills, all of the skills that she had attained through the years, and start her own business. What she was missing was structure. So how can we help? And this is off topic, but you might have a sentence or two that can benefit. How can we help people who, let's say Joe went to be a consultant? I'm taking a risk and assuming that you have strategies and tips and tools to help someone like Joe become a consultant in the outside world as opposed to getting another salaried position. Is that correct?
Yes, I do help leaders in organization as well as transitioning leaders out of organization to entrepreneurs. And what I would recommend is doing a SWOT analysis wherever they are at, because it's really important. And SWOT is something like you see, or to simplify, rather than going into the details where we are talking about opportunities, threats, and all the good stuff, is
sure.
How urgent it is for you to leave the job. Because whenever you look at the situation emotionally, when you're not looking at with a balanced approach, you may be taking a step that's going to be detrimental to your progress. So the key is to sit down and create that transition plan, where one thing to keep in mind, the one primary thing that I would share is that when you're doing a job in the corporate world, you have a whole team to support you to do your job. You have systems in place. You have funding in place to support you to do your job. So as an entrepreneur, there are 3 things that come into play. One is your positioning, because now you're stepping out in a world where people don't know you. So you have to position yourself. And second, you have to create systems for the back end. You need to have a structure. And yes, we talked about it, that you have a structured job in the corporate world, but let me share with you, dear friends, that you also have a structure while you're being a consultant or an entrepreneur. It's called the back-end systems, creating automation. And then the third is that, are you ready to invest in yourself, in your marketing, invest in other skill sets, and knowing where you exactly are, and are you ready to go? I'm not saying to wait out like for 10 years. You don't have to do that. But it's important to have the ducks in a row before you step out, because there is freedom within the structure.
Absolutely. Without structure, there is no freedom. There's just fear.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important to have the structure. And I think that, unfortunately, most IT people, whatever they're doing, whether they're project managers or software developers or UX designers, whatever they do, whatever their skill set is, they don't have any extra time to have a side hustle, a side job to start something. That's my experience so far anyway. They're exhausted. So I'm not saying you and I aren't exhausted, but we're used to doing what we're doing. When you're changing strategies and going into the entrepreneur world and starting your own consulting business, it takes energy. It takes all that you're talking about, the back end, the positioning, the systems, but it also takes energy to do that. So this is something that, has to be a little planned. Somebody has to plan. As you said, if without a plan, there is nothing.
You're absolutely right on, Joanne.
Well, what I also want to tell everybody who's listening, and if you're on my website, you will see that there's a free audio program that I'm going to provide the link for, that Divya Parekh is giving to you. It's about leadership and influence. And I want to ask Divya, what you've been at this for a while. So what has been a lesson or advice that has stuck with you, Divya?
Mm-hmm. Great question. So one of the things I'll share with you is it's about taking a pause. In any moment you are, whether you're in a conversation, whether you're making a decision, it's so important to take that pause. And one of the rules that I have come up with is it's called 24, which comes from 24 hours in a day, 24 by 3 rule. So for example, if you are making a decision which is not as critical, somebody's asking you if you want to go to a party with them in the evening and you've got no clues what's happening in the evening. So you take a pause, you go to your calendar, quickly check if you have any plans with your family. And if you don't, then you say yes. And then that way you're avoiding any conflicts that may occur that, let's say if you are a father or a mother of a young kid and you had promised him or her that you would be going to the soccer game and now you totally forgot about it. But that pause allows you to look at your calendar. And that's one of the things I would recommend is put your events, even that's in your personal life, on the calendar. And that prevents you from making that faux pas out of which, oh my goodness, I wish I could have avoided. The second one is taking 24 minutes for any important decision, rather than just jumping and saying yes to your boss. Oh yeah, I will do that for you. Boss comes to you at the end of the day and says, oh, can you finish this report for me? So ask the right questions and think about it. That first, find out yourself if the report is important. And if you don't know that the report is important, ask the boss and say, is it really important to you? How does it need to be done? And the boss may say, yes, it's very important. Otherwise, I would not have asked you. It needs to go out tonight. And then the next question might be, as you're thinking, as you're taking that pause of that 24 seconds, do you think I could send it out by 9 p.m. tonight? And if the boss says yes, and now let's say you have a soccer game to go to, then what you could do is you could go and attend your son's or daughter's soccer game, and at the same time, you could take the report home if you're allowed to and complete it and send it off. Or you could attend half of the game and then say that, hey, this something came up. I am still keeping my promise to you. Or if you promised your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever promise you've done, you can still work around it. So that's what 24 minutes allows you to live your life with joy and allows you to have a professional life that brings joy to you, and you are able to do more with less. And the next step is the 24 hours. So many times it happens that people will come to us and we say yes, even though our plate may be full. So if it's, let's say, even if it's your boss, or even if it's your very dear friend or dear colleague, somebody from your team member, and they say, oh, can you please help me out with the testing of this software? It needs to be launched tomorrow. It has to be passed on to the quality team by tomorrow. So go sleep on it before answering that question. Say, hey, can I sleep on that? And check your calendar. And if you're able to do it really quickly, then you can answer them that, yes, you're able to help them out. But let's say if you have a deadline that's also due tomorrow and you're not able to help them, and now you're trying to juggle these two or three important tasks, and if you fail in doing the tasks in a good way, you're not able to complete your own deliverable, and at the same time you may be messing up somebody else's deliverable. So this is one of the tools that I've really found to be very helpful.
It sounds it. And it gives people in whatever situation, whether 24 seconds, 24 minutes, or 24 hours, a choice. People don't like not having a choice. People don't like being pushed against the wall and being, lectured to. You do this, you do that, this order giving and order taking type of relationship that happens too often in the business world. So they have a choice, and it's up to them to take responsibility to make that choice. And that's why you have 324 or 24/3, whatever it is. But it's 24 seconds, 24 minutes, and 24 hours. Well, I think this has been a great show. And what I want to tell people, and I thank you, Divya Parekh, I want to tell listeners to tell your friends to listen to this podcast. Divya has provided a great deal of information, and this is just the beginning of what she is able to offer you. You can go to her website link at Divya Parekh. It's DIVYAPAREKH.com. Divya Parekh. And if you want to go to my website at askjoannevictoria.com, spelled as it sounds, you can get a free book called The True Self Handbook, A Guide to Transform Your Life. And I thank you for listening, and I thank Divya Parekh for being our guest today. Thanks, Divya.
Thank you so much, Joanne, for having me on your show. Really appreciate it.
I'm really grateful that you're here. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Sanity Project podcast. Please go to AskJoanneVictoria.com and continue the conversation on her podcast page. And get a free copy of her book, The True Self Handbook, A Guide to Transform Your Life. That's AskJoanneVictoria.com. Take care, and thanks for being here.